ラバショールの方からこんにちは。ハードコアです。ハードコア曖昧亭です。いや別にハードコアじゃないけど、僕は。よいしょ。ということで、続きから遊ばせてくれるかなと思ったけど、コントローラーもな。コントローラー入ってるよね。なんで動いてくれないの？教えて。ロジール。ロジクール？始まんねえ。どこはあなるほど。わかった。フォーカスが OBS になってたからか。これで今ので逆に入んなくなっちゃったんじゃないそんな。イガする。なんでやってたっけ。死体からブーツをかっぱらおうと思ったら、フラグを立ててなかったので、かっぱらえませんでした。ここのオープニングアニメーション綺麗だな。ロゴのアニメーションか。まさか原作者と戦いを起こすことになろうとは。あれやっぱ動かなくね？ああ、いや、フォーカスが相変わらず OBS だ。ペールの話を聞きましょう。
You're back. Good. What can I help? More lessons in basic reality? These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born for the big time.
The smile of a predator. No doubt what she's got in mind.
捕食者の気質。
Predators, dear. The revolution. It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next.
She's not gloated. It's a relief.
ほっとして喜んで。
Oh, and did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million. Yes, the Insulindian deluge, they call it. Yes, and lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad.
クソ、教師さん好き。
Yes, King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran him and tens of thousands. The liberals got the mineral rights. And by liberals are usually some were rich enough. They didn't win so much for foreign intervention. The coalition, the liberals, the coalition.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. At least not in...
The rulers of Revachol, and also...
This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
常に何の責任も取らなくていいぜと。上と下は1、2は選んだことある気がするな。3、無責任を選んでみようかな。
Almost endearingly moralist standpoint. It must be hard to take a moderate approach. Return of the revolution. It wasn't a who. It made people overthrow their government. Of course not. From Revachol, why? You and I often...
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar.
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. A city...
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer Elfboy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
なんだエルフボーイっ
The
て。
zone of control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the suzerain. Modernity, 43 years. Hard to... The 20s saw a decade of urban war. The 30s? Things that... No. It was a market mirage fueled by cocaine and quantitative easing. The 40s dispelled it like a cold splash. An Easter-wide hangover, you might say. And here we are.
もうちょっと音声大きくてもいいんだよな。よいしょ。あと僕のカチャカチャ音がめちゃくちゃ入ってるのが残念なんで。どうしようもないが。どうしようもないが。あ、また間違えたな。よいしょ。
Welcome to reality.
Welcome to reality.
From the looks of it, the 50s haven't been much better for the zone of control. You can see it in her eyes. Days slipping away.
I've no right to be dissatisfied. This shirt, we could have had so much more. Good question.
No, her first.
And I asked.
Here's some wisdom, lady. Say the death.
死の話を。これはでも選んだことある気がするな。工業権をかっぱらってたな。医療面も選んだことがある気がする。
You and everyone else. But that's got nothing to do with preventing the... Good question.
No, her first.
And you would have died, most likely. Not far.
The cold runs down your spine. She gestures toward the waters.
喜ん
The
で。
wind stops. There is silence on the dark water of...
Good. Not that it would have mattered.
こ
Good
こ楽しい
question.
な。
No, her first.
And you would...
The cold runs down your spine. She gestures toward the waters. The wind stops.
Then you would have died fighting against them. Long before the beachhead. Our time is a shadow.
死ぬな
Good
ぁ。
question.
No, her first.
And you would have...
The cold runs down your spine. The wind stops.
No. Almost certainly. The commune would have forced you. Such was the fate of the... Good question.
No, her first. The cold runs down your spine. As you say,
I see. A tenth of humanity. The key of history is in the lock. Keep turning at any cost.
資本主義が過去の子のものになったら何になるんだ。宗教国家。
the wind stops.
Capital is past.
Capital is past. あれレバショル君
Past.
たの Past.
That's what De Breva, the leader of the communards, said. Before she got a capital is finished. But understand this. They are what they are. Anyway, enough sentimentality. It's a neurological disorder caused by a lack of vitamin
Vitamin
B in
B.
the brain. Symptoms.
She conveys it in short, cold bursts, trying not to invest too deeply.
Well, it's either bariatric surgery or long-term alcohol use.
She nods. What this boils down to is this reality thing
現
is
実の究
stupid.
明
Blow this joint. Grab a bottle.
お前電気科学前いい加減にしろよ
Wait. This
Wait wait
reality thing is the only game in town. It's probably
ありがとう
in
石
your
行くん
interest not to blow it. She stares at you, head tilted to the side, with a slightly concerned look on her face.
団結心あれ団結心使えるんだ
She won't maneuver her way out of this one.
I am a,
It's sharp.
Virtual liberal
an ultra-liberal. It's a type of liberal from the revolution. It's not the moderate
リベ
kind.
ラルだ
Yes. I am the nether creature of the forbidden swamp. I can see you thought we'd gone
初めて
extinct.
選ぶ選択肢を選びたいけど
In her green eyes, you see a mixture of truth
面
and
白くなっちゃう
self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride. Forgive her. but only because you like pearlescent teeth and those light green eyes.
電気科学。暴かないの。
A devil.
A
Who being
devil.
of great charm and guile sneaketh into the homes of the
Beneath her waterproof raincoat and silk shirt is a body imbibed in numb 12 perfume. You are suddenly
電気科学はさ、
aware of it.
あるんだ、こんなの。電気科学が強いとここまで来れるんだ。なるほどね。もちろん入れとくよ、電気科学。もういいよ、十分入ってるよ。あ、スキルポイントめっちゃある。団結心と入れとこうかな。団結心。内陸帝国君もちょっと弱いから、もうちょっと話しかけてきてくれてもいいんですよ。とりあえず、これだけにしとこうかな。うん、最低。
steal, kill, and destroy.
うん。Yeah.
That they say we've been doing for over 4 decades now. Perhaps regret in any
いい
case.
ね。
I'm glad we can remain collegial despite my scaly bulk and my perverse need to infiltrate and betray both kingdom and revolution. Honestly, I may have even preferred it had the communards won. Who knows? They might really have built something better. But they didn't. Because they lost. When the dust settled, the Liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, with due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinez a monument to the efficacy of its artillery.
他のパラメータが高かったらちゃんとやれなくてもいいんだけど、ちゃんとなんかもっとお近づきになれるコースが用意されてたりしたのかな。今回肉体が高くて警察への忠誠心が高いみたいな感じになってるからな。精神と肉体。
While a gentle wind sweeps the streets in the rebuilt east, light drizzle washing it clean.
I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the coalition. Not here in Mar. Then for my daughters.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes. An
Mira,
oil
quita.
fire on the ocean.
Perhaps. Yes. I suppose I am. But yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother. And a wife. Now, shall we return to a bird? Some sort of krill hunter? Of course you're not, my dear. Ah, or two. A pre-revolutionary tenement. This one used to be 8 to 10. Mostly the urban... Splat, splat.
Sprat.
Wonderful. The girl in the old lady rags. Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of... Yes, you and I belong... She prefers a fantasy world. An infraculture. Young people who dye their hair funny colors and wear old people's clothes are stupid. All right. What next?
団結しに行ってみるか。ホワイトスキルチェックだから。いけるかな。
It remains a mystery what you mean by this something close. This isn't about you. It's about reality.
来年間も行ってみるか、せっかくだから。
A strange
全部
coldness comes over.
全部
The doubt
全部
fully
失敗してる。
formed in your head.
Glad to have been of assistance.
なんだったっけ。概念化と、概念化くんと、内陸帝国だったっけ。忘れちゃった。何あげるんだったっけ。概念化あげるか、じゃあ。しょうがないな。俺は概念化くんが好きだから、今回はあげないでいこうと思ったのについあげちゃっ
What
た
can I
ぜ。
help you with? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me
団
anything.
結心か。安倍よく内陸帝国をあげるところだった。団結心じゃあげてくるか。
Glad to have been of assistance.
よいしょ。 カーと、団結心。あ、一応シャツ着るとなんとかなるな。団結心。上着変えちゃったから先に概念化だけやるか。
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day.
What is all of
What world? The only one, I suppose.
the camera of her mind glides over the surface of the water.
Great bodies of
A
water.
frisson lifts the hair on the back of your arm. Wind sweeps the surface of the bay.
The world is a suzerainty
The world is suzerainty
of Revachol.
of Rebel.
There is a term of endearment they coin for it in the DeLorean sense. Elysium. It does. A term of hatred that originates like many such. Oh, you want great things are different. We used to think it was a sphere, but that is beginning to look less.
ORG. Oxygen.
There's a steadily yes. Pale covers 72% of the
ここ好
surface.
きなんだよな。
There are grey flares and prominences.
A cold fear seeps into you.
You seem to be spooked. Please don't be. They say there is a rarefied envelope of matter surrounding the darkened disk of our planet. That is, if we are still living on a planet. Or, to speak more plainly, imagine vast swathes of I am sorry, dear. It must sound quite terrifying through the... But this is one of the greatest questions of our time. Maybe when they get the complete set together, it will jolt us out of our... You have misimagined it. It's like the crowning of the world. It's insane. Very... See?
The cold seeps into you. The air is heavy with 80% humidity.
湿度80%結構しっとりしてる。
Suddenly, you're conscious of yourself standing there on whatever this all is.
The pale is not, technically. It is the opposite of reality. Okay. The pale is the most dominant geological feature. Isla is a Messinian word for a continent of matter, enveloped on all sides by the pale. Windy, Seol, Samara, an oceanic isla. It comprises mostly of water. Muindi is the largest, Katla the coldest, insulin, achromatic, odorless, featureless. The pale is the enemy of no detective.
As your gaze instinctively turns north, a small black pit.
Yes. An uproar. Imagine a grey coronal mist. The most disco thing.
You hear your pulse rise.
いい
The
ね。
air feels cold.
It's difficult to
これ
describe.
最近見つかったってやつなのかな。もう
Something whose fundamental property is the further into pale you travel. Oh, it is possible to force dimensions on the pale, but it is still hard for humans to navigate extensively. Some say the damage stems from extremes. They call it the blend over. It feels terrible. No name.
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution. Some degraded early memories.
Up to my gill.
An acidic smile on her lips. It's getting worse every year.
ああ。
Entrepenetics is the scientific study of the pale, or a recent iteration of it by way of... There are signs of pre-modern... Nothing. Hybrid, in essence, then they don't. The pale out... What do you think, detective? Precise. An intuitive conclusion of that development is that one day the pale will cover everything. Most people... I suggest you do the same.
Off we go.
Oh,
You
we
see the
go.
hanged man's mouth open.
One and all.
One and
They say
all.
pale is death.
Why should we just leave, and the world get left behind?
世界が一緒に来てくれてるのかもしれないよ。
Extensive. Some... They call it... It feels terrible. Absolutely.
She's
Oh, no.
looking out. She's over-radiated. And then some.
some they call it feels. No,
Perhaps that explains her strange pining after the revolution.
yes.
That poor woman must have stories to tell, like you wouldn't. She's over-radiated.
Yes. Is
Ooh,
this the
現
first
実。
time you're hearing this? Do you really not remember anything? Then tell me, what do you think of the Pale?
「ディスコ」って感じ。
Your ailing constitution, sweaty forehead, the beads.
You really didn't know. This does not spell good for the
ボロボロじゃねえか。
investigation detective. If you don't know even this, then
さあどうかな。
I hope so. I truly
Thanks.
do. If I may suggest,
hi.
hold on to your colleague, Kitsuragi. I ran a check on him and he is very competent. In the meanwhile,
And meanwhile.
Some of that assurance is meant for herself, as much as it's meant for you. She
you have me. I will assist you in any way I can, even if we have to do it one basic term at a time.
すいませんね、本当にね。団結心じゃちょっと。
Glad to have been of assistance.
団結心。何が下がるんだっけこのシャツ。なんか下がってたよね。忘れちゃった。概念化か。団結心を受ける。
You're back.
Your
Good.
work.
What can I
Good.
more lessons in basic reality?
あ、やべ、先にあげちゃっ
My
た。
favorite part of the day.
6
Wow,
kilometers
over there.
southwest in the Valley of Dogs. Junior officer Chad Tilbrook takes aim at a
犬の
rabid
種。
black dog, licking its wounds in the grass. To his left, his partner
Emily
Emily
Mullins.
whispers,
テキ
"You
ー
heard
ラ
what
サン
happened
セッ
to
ト。
Tequila Sunset in Martinez?"
マルティネ
Yes,
ス。
he lost his mind, Tilbrook answers, fingers on the trigger. Don't worry, ML. He pulls it out slowly. Slowly now. We always do.
He always do.
You? You're an officer of the RCM.
We か。We always do.
Preciso mundo.
We always do. 人って甘いし太いんだ。綺麗だ。
Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol. Yes, that means the RCM's responsibilities are defined by the Emergency, Wayfarer and Aliments Acts, 3 pieces of legislation keeping the city in a... There's nothing basic about your role, detective. It's true that the Yet. The post-revolutionary decade was a disaster. They called it the International Zone. So permit me to conclude with this. Who you are to me is the police. The only legitimate... And if those authorities drink so hard they need nothing more... Yes, that means... Permit me... And if those authorities drink so hard... Glad to have been of assistance.
だってじゃあ、そろっと寝るか。画面も真っ暗で何も見えなくなってきたしな。暗いじゃ。ゆっくり寝るとするぜ。1日目はこうやって周りを見に行って、そういえばさ、 なんか入れる？クラスマゾフの自殺。銃口を加えて撃て。これすげえどうしようもねえやつの気がするけど、一回もやったことないから内面化してみる？ここら辺はやったことあんだよ。うん。わざわざこれ使う？やるか。ガルテをそろそろ寝かしてやるか。どんどん。ネクタイまだ取れないんだけど。
Has it been consigned there as punishment? You feel as though this creature is your friend and wants to reattach.
明日直したらいいですね。
A mirror hangs on the bathroom wall.
なんもない。
In it,
ほんとなんもない。全部ダメ。なんなんだ。電気科学7が非常に難しいって。ジャンキーだぞ、こっちとら。まず。
The sheets feel at once coarse and clammy against your skin. The bed sags beneath you, and then sleep doesn't come.
Sleep doesn't come. 来てくれ。
And then sleep doesn't come.
And then sleep doesn't come.
Maybe it's the bed's fault.
So...
See little better. Colors, scenes, and half-formed phrases still litter your mind. Part of you is still something to do with. What was it that the lieutenant said? Union? And it's gone again. Your breathing steadies. A great silence washes over you until your eyelids twitch in your skin.
RKK ダンスホール。ディスコ。あ、ちゃんとミラーボールもついてんだ。
Do you remember your wife's hand on your face? Do you remember the warmth of her thighs between her legs and in her mouth?
俺は方から去ったんだよ。
No, funky baby, you
ファンキーベイビー。
It was the rest
ファイキーベイビーなの？ファンキーじゃないの？
Or you just stood there with
Funky
one hand on
baby.
the bottle and the other on your dick.
ファイキーよりファンキ
Watching
ー
it go.
でいい気もするけど、わかんないな。はい。去ったのは片割れの方。まあそこに突っ立って、片手に酒のボトル、片手にチンコポコを握りしめて。
Tell me.
で、てか、最低だろ。決まってたんだろうな、薬で。あー、最悪。あー。友達。友達ももうその頃にはいなくなっている。それか、その後にはいなくなっている。本当に誰もいなくなって、仕事しかなくなったのかな。
Everything. The pie. You really dropped the ball, Harry. 4.6. No, Harry. You were just talking. You'll be back in those cold snakeskins in no time. Stinky boy.
立ち上がれる。
Coming back from shit, thrashing around in that high conductivity state. You're trying to. So something is wrong. Sleep shouldn't be this bad. This dry. This
体が冷えてるとき死ぬほど悪夢見るから温めて寝た方がいいよ。酒以外で。
Oh yes, party boy. Time to go to work in the
Time to go to work in the shit.